General adult tests, checking for allergies. An allergy is an exaggerated response by the immune system to a substance that is normally harmless, such as a pollen or a specific food. Allergies are not usually serious, although rarely they can be life-threatening. Tests for allergies include skin prick testing and patch testing. The body continually encounters foreign substances that stimulate the immune system. Normally, this does not cause any problems, but in susceptible people, the immune system overreacts to a particular substance, the allergen, causing an allergic reaction. Most allergic responses occur shortly after exposure to the allergen, but sometimes a reaction may not occur for up to about 3 days after exposure. Most people with an allergy have only relatively mild symptoms, such as a runny nose, rash, watering eyes, sneezing, and wheezing. Rarely, a severe allergic response may occur, causing symptoms of anaphylactic shock, swelling of the face, mouth, throat, and tongue, difficulty breathing, and possibly loss of consciousness. Anaphylactic shock is a medical emergency that needs immediate treatment with an injection of adrenaline or epinephrine. Skin prick testing is one of the most common allergy tests and is carried out to identify possible allergens immediately. Dilute solutions are produced from extracts of allergens that commonly cause allergic reactions, such as pollen, foods, and dander. Flakes of skin shed from animals. A drop of each solution is placed on your skin, which is then pricked with a needle. The doctor examines the skin for a reaction, which typically occurs within about 10 to 15 minutes. If you're allergic to one of the test substances, an inflamed, red, itchy lump appears. The size of the lump is not an indication of how severe your allergy is. If you usually take antihistamines or other anti-allergy medications, you may need to stop taking them for a few days before testing, depending on the specific medication. Patch testing is used to investigate contact dermatitis, a type of allergic eczema. It is carried out to determine which substances provoke your eczema. Tiny amounts of possible allergens are placed on small patches or metal discs, which are then taped to your skin. They are commonly taped to your back, but sometimes your arms or legs may be used instead. After about 2 days, the patches or discs are removed and the skin underneath is examined by a dermatologist. A red, itchy, inflamed area indicates a positive reaction to the particular allergen on the patch or disc. The dermatologist will re-examine the test area about 2 days later to check for any delayed reactions. If you usually take anti-allergy medication, you will be asked to stop taking it before the test. Thank you for your attention.
Let's now go to pathology. Let's discuss full empty conditions, part 4. Now, a weak pathogenic factor, strong upright sheet. This situation also leads to a mixed full empty condition, which may be external or internal. Although this is a full empty condition in a similar way to the previous situation with strong pathogenic factor and deficient upright sheet. Its manifestations will be quite different and generally milder because the pathogenic factor is weak. An example of an exterior condition with these characteristics is that of a patient with a strong upright sheet who is invaded by a mild external wind. In such case, the clinical manifestations will be very mild. There will be no fever, and the patient will generally be able to work through a condition. An example of an interior condition with weak pathogenic factor and strong upright sheet is that of a patient suffering from a mild condition of dampness but with a strong upright sheet. In this case, too, the clinical manifestations will be mild. In a weak pathogenic factor, strong upright sheet, it's of a mixed full condition, symptoms are mild. If external, there will be moderate fever. A weak pathogenic factor deficient upright sheet, it may seem strange that such a condition when both pathogenic factor and upright sheet are weak is also defined as full empty. It is described as such because although weak, there is a pathogenic factor. This condition, too, may be external or internal, and the clinical manifestations will be the mildest of the last three cases. An example of such a situation in exterior conditions is that of patient with a deficient upright chi who suffers an invasion of a mild exterior wind. The clinical manifestations will be very mild and there will be no fever. An example of such a situation in interior conditions is that of patients suffering from a chronic deficiency of the upright chi and the simultaneous presence of mild dampness or phlegm. The situation with a weak pathogenic factor and the deficient upright chi is one that causes the symptoms to linger for many years without getting better or worse. To summarize, the weak pathogenic factor deficient upright chi would be mixed, full empty condition, very mild symptoms, long protracted chronic disease, and if external, no fever. Thank you for your attention.
Stomach 27, Ta Chu, great might. Located on the upper abdomen, Tu Tsun lateral to the anterior median line, Tu Tsun inferior to the umbilicus. When there is distension and stagnation of qi because the stomach qi is failing to rot and ripen and the power of earth to decrease is undermined, the person cannot assimilate and move forward. Change and development are being impeded. Great might, or stomach 27, moved stomach qi. Contentment and a sense of abundance can only occur through appropriate processing and assimilation. This point can be used for moving stagnant qi, especially in the lower burner or in excess conditions of the stomach, giving rise to lateral abdominal pain. With the names spring and gate in the alternate names, it is not surprising that this point can refresh and strengthen the spirit and the chi. Used for male genital problems and hernia, regulate stomach chi. For lower abdominal distension, this point can be used for male sexual disorders such as premature ejaculation or erectile dysfunction. Consider for those who feel empty within and who are unable to experience a sense of harvest in their life. Also consider stomach 20, which has a similar effect. Combinations for cold dump Shan disorder, we combine stomach 27 with spleen 8 and liver 6. For palpitations and insomnia, we combine stomach 27 with Ren 6 and spleen 6. How to find? The distance between the umbilicus and the upper border of the pubic symphysis is divided into 5 proportional tsun, which can vary considerably from the patient's finger tsun. Therefore, only proportional tsun measurements should be used. From the umbilicus, measure 2 tsun down and 2 tsun laterally, where stomach 27 is located. Located on the same level are Ren 5 and kidney 14. Needling vertically 0.5 to 1 tsun. Caution, peritoneum pregnancy. Actions, regulates and strengthens the qi, benefits the kidneys and promotes diuresis, strengthens the yang and essence. Thank you for your attention.
Let's now go to stomach patterns. Let's discuss stomach cold. This concept is due to a cold pathogen invading the stomach and manifests as cold pain in the epigastrium with excess cold symptoms. It is also called cold invading the stomach. The key symptoms would be presence of epigastric pain and cold patterns at the same time. This analysis pattern is mostly ascribed to an excessive intake of raw and cold food or an attack on the stomach by cold, which leads to cold stagnation in the epigastrium. For clinical manifestations, sudden epigastric pain, which is aggravated by cold and alleviated by warmth, nausea, vomiting, pain, which is relieved temporarily after vomiting, a bland taste in the mouth and lack of thirst, or clear drooling, excess salivation, pale or blue complexion, cold limbs, a pale tongue with a white, moist, and slippery coating, and a wiry or deep, slow, and tight pulse. In the analysis of a stomach cold pattern, when cold prevents descent of stomach chi, there will be cold contracts and stagnates chi. There would be epigastric cold pain. In excess pattern, there would be sudden onset. For stomach chi, counterflows upward, there would be nausea and vomiting. For cold with dispersed in warmth, there will be pain. Pain is relieved in warmth. When chi is stagnated, more in cold circumstances, there will be aggravation of pain. If chi stagnation is relieved after vomiting, the pain is alleviated temporarily. When cold damages yang qi, there would be the stomach would fail to transform water and then ascends with yang qi. There would be clear drooling from the mouth. When yang qi is trapped and fails to disperse outward, there will be cold limbs, pale or blue complexion. Then the white moist coating, a wiry or deep and tight pulse are manifestations of excess cold. Cold invading the stomach, etiology, invasion of exterior cold, exposure to cold, excessive consumption of cold or raw foods. The underlying or accompanying pathology, the possible underlying stomach chi weakness. For signs and symptoms, the sudden severe epigastric pain, feeling cold, preference for warmth, cold limbs, nausea and vomiting of clear fluids that relieves pain, pain worse after drinking cold fluids, preference for warm liquids. The pulse would be deep, tight, and slow. The tongue would be thick white coating. For treatment principle, you can scatter cold, warm, and harmonize the stomach and stop pain. The acupuncture treatment to be used are stomach 21, which dissipates stomach cold. REN 13 stimulates descending of stomach chi. Stomach 36, the main point to supplement stomach chi. Stomach 44 descends stomach chi. Pericardium 6 harmonizes the stomach. Spleen 4 clears obstruction from stomach. Stomach 34 for acute and painful patterns. REN 12 supplements stomach and spleen chi. Stomach 21 regulates chi and alleviates pain. And the needle with even method and moxa. For relevant advice, when there is an invasion of cold in the stomach, the person will benefit from eating and drinking food and beverages that have a warming and spicy dynamic and that are thermally hot, such as ginger tea. If the invasion is due to climatic influences or wet clothes, a ginger poultice on the abdomen can help to expel the cold. The person should avoid consuming food and beverages that are cold in their temperature and energy. The upper abdomen should be kept warm and dry. Thank you for your attention.
Diagnosis by 8 fundamentals. The diagnosis of cold heat. The dimension of cold heat concerns the nature of an illness. The presence of syndromes of cold or of heat reflects unbalanced excess or deficiency of yin or yang. Yin excess or yang deficiency manifests cold symptoms, whereas yang excess and yin deficiency manifests heat symptoms. For this reason, the Ming Dynasty physician Zhang Qingyue said, cold heat, they are the manifestation of changes in yin-yang. In differentiating cold and heat, it is not sufficient to judge on the basis of individual patterns of the symptoms. The physician must analyze the entire pattern of symptoms established by all the diagnostic methods in order to reach a firm conclusion. Symptoms of cold or heat reflect the nature of the illness. As a rule, cold symptoms include those that relate to coldness, and heat symptoms include those that relate to hotness. However, the symptoms of coldness can differ from the symptoms of cold, and similarly, the symptoms of hotness can differ from the symptoms of heat. The symptoms of coldness and of hotness are merely the apparent manifestation of the illness. In some situations, they may in fact be opposite of the colder heat nature of the illness. In such situations, we may have true or false symptoms of cold heat. Thus, if the illness is one of cold but manifests some syndromes of hotness, it is a case of true cold with false heat symptoms. If the illness is caused by heat but manifests some symptoms of coldness, it is a case of true heat with false cold symptoms. But in the course of the majority of illnesses, the nature and the appearance of the illness tend to agree. That is, a cold illness tends to manifest coldness symptoms, and a heat illness tends to manifest hotness symptoms. Differentiation of cold heat is the basis for the selection of therapeutic principle and the choice of specific treatment. As the plain question states, if cold, warm it, and if heat, cool it. This clearly underscores the importance of cold heat differentiation to clinical therapeutics. Cold syndromes are those of illnesses of cold nature. Such illnesses mostly result from attack by exogenous cold, deficiency of yang or excess of yin or yang damage by chronic illnesses. Because of differences in the location of the illnesses, cold syndromes may be further categorized as symptoms of exterior cold or of interior cold. Cold syndrome in the exterior result from exogenous cold attacking the superficies and thwarting defensive yang. A typical pattern of clinical findings is the following: marked cold intolerance with mild fever, headache and body aches, absence of sweating, a thin white but moist tongue coating, and a pulse that is floating and tight. Cold syndrome in the interior results from exogenous cold directly invading the visceral organs or from deficiency of the body's yang qi, leading to the loss of its warming action. A typical syndrome of clinical findings is the following: cold body and limbs, a pallid complexion, bland taste with much saliva, polyuria of clear urine and loose feces, a pale tongue with white and moist coating, and a deep and slow pulse. Heat syndromes reflect hyperactivity of bodily functions. They result mostly from attack by exogenous heat, the passions transforming into fire, or yin deficiency and yang excess. With either strong yang heat or insufficiency of yin fluids to restrain yang, the bodily functions become hyperactive. As a result, the patient manifests hotness symptoms. Heat syndromes may also be categorized as exterior or interior. Heat syndromes in the exterior result from exogenous heat attacking the superficies. A typical syndrome of clinical findings is the following: fever with mild aversion to wind or cold, a dry mouth with mild thirst, a tongue with red tip and sides, yellow tongue coating, and a rapid pulse. Sometimes there may be an additional symptom of sweating or cough. Heat syndromes in the interior result from strong exogenous heat in the interior or endogenous heat arising from yin deficiency. A typical syndrome of clinical findings is the following: flushed complexion, fever, mental confusion and agitation, thirst with desire to drink, dark oliguria and dry constipation, a red tongue with yellow coating, and a rapid pulse. Thank you for your attention. Physical examination strategies. Physical examination of special populations, Part 2. Considerations for the geriatric patient. The assessment sequence for older adults is the same as for the younger adult. However, there are several special considerations when examining the elderly. The elderly may have difficulty assuming certain positions. For example, lithotomy position, knee chest position, or lying supine, or may have decreased sensory capabilities. Assist the geriatric patient with position changes as needed to conserve energy or ensure safety. In addition, reaction time may be longer. Remember to maintain patience and assist in any way possible. You may have to assist the patient to the table, speak a little slower, or repeat yourself. The key with the elderly is to remain patient to ensure accuracy of the physical examination. With the elderly population, it is necessary to obtain a functional assessment to determine the ability of the patient to perform day-to-day tasks. The use of a functional assessment can determine ability of the elderly to deal with the daily demands of life, how to shape your management plan, level of instruction you can provide, ability of the patient to comply with the management plan. Functional assessment of the elderly. Evaluate the following: ability to perform basic activities of daily living, ADL, such as bathing, dressing, toileting, and feeding. Ability to perform instrumental ADL, such as housekeeping, money management, grocery shopping, and meal preparation. Mobility, use of cane, walker, wheelchair. Communication, including speech, ability to dial a phone, hearing acuity. Safety, does the patient need assistance to get in and out of home, shower, car, etc.? Medication status, including regimen, acquisition, compliance, and ability to access health care. Mental status and mood impairment. Thank you for your attention.
Let's now go to acupuncture for emergencies. Let's discuss bleeding from uterus. The ordinary uterus bleeding, you can use acupuncture on the Shangdu point, use moxibustion on the spleen 1 point, and then acupuncture on the Suling point. For uterus bleeding after birth delivery, you can use acupuncture on the spleen 1 point, use acupuncture on the LI4 and spleen 6 point, use acupuncture on the SJ6 and spleen 6 points, use acupuncture on the LI4, spleen 6 do 26 and stomach 36 points, and use moxibustion on the spleen 1 and REN 4 points. Use folk therapy. Use 15 grams hot pepper roots and 4 chicken's feet. Add the pepper roots and chicken's feet to water. Bring to a boil for 20 to 30 minutes. Drink the soup twice a day. After bleeding stops, the drink should still be consumed for 5 to 10 days. Burn 1 lofa until dark in color. Grind into powder. Drink it with salt water, 9 grams each time, 3 times a day. Cook 30 grams of lychee in water for 5 minutes. Drink it as a tea every day. Continue for 15 days. For dysmenorrhea, you can use acupuncture on the point under the 17th vertebra. Use acupuncture point on the liver 5 and GB 26 points. Use acupuncture on the UB 55 point. Use acupuncture on the spleen 6, lingu, and menjian points. Use folk therapy. For lower stomach pain due to menstruation, use 15 grams fresh ginger and 30 grams brown sugar. Add the material to water, bring to a boil for 30 minutes. Drink the soup. For stomach pain due to menstruation, use 10 grams Chinese prickly ash peel and 3 grams of pepper. Grind the material into a powder. Mix with liquor to prepare a paste. Apply the paste on the navel, seal it with medical tape. Repeat every day. This tip works if the pain is due to the accumulation of cold in the lower stomach area or the uterus. For lower stomach pain before menstruation, add 15 grams fennel to water. Bring to a boil for 30 minutes. Drink the exact extract every day, 3 days before the period begins. For lower stomach pain before menstruation, use 500 ml liquor and 60 grams salvia. Add the salvia to the liquor. Heat for 1 month. Drink the mixture several days before the period begins. This tip is mostly useful if the pain is caused by blood stagnation in the lower stomach. For stomach pain before or during menstruation, cut dried loofah into small pieces. Add it to water, bring to a boil for 30 to 60 minutes. Drink the extract and repeat twice a day. For lower back pain in women, add 30 grams of loofah, net material to water. Bring to a boil for 30 to 60 minutes. Drink the water extract together with a little cooking wine. Thank you for your attention. Let's now go to fibromyalgia. Let's discuss causes. The causes of fibromyalgia. It is not clear why some people develop fibromyalgia. The exact cause is unknown, but it is likely that a number of factors are involved, which may vary in different people. Increasing attention is being given to the central nervous system as the underlying mechanism of fibromyalgia. Studies have suggested that fibromyalgia patients have developed changes in the way the central nervous system processes the pain messages carried around the body. Moreover, chemical and protein imbalances or low levels of serotonin, noradrenaline, and dopamine in the nervous system may explain why fibromyalgia results in constant feelings of and extreme sensitivity to pain. More recently, fibromyalgia has been described as central pain amplification disorder, meaning the volume of pain sensation in the brain is turned up too high. An imbalance of the physiological mechanisms controlling pain in the central nervous system appears to be responsible for the generation of abnormal pain sensitivity and other fibromyalgia related symptoms, poor memory, fatigue, and depression. Most patients affected with fibromyalgia have shown a reduced ability of the descending pain modulating pathways. In particular, the serotonergic and noradrenergic activity appears to be reduced, as proved by the therapeutic benefits observed following administration of serotonin and norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors. Moreover, fibromyalgia patients may present with a reduced binding ability of the opioid receptors found in those regions known for their important role in pain activation. The activation of glia cells participates in pain modulation, including neuropathic pain. The action of the anterior cingulate cortex on pain modulation is not yet fully understood. However, the release of inhibitory neurotransmitters such as GABA and opioids is expected to reduce the neuronal excitability of this region. The neurons act on the neurons in rostral ventromedial medulla and are therefore responsible for pain modulation through activation of descending fibers. Central processing with neuroendocrine neurotransmitter dysregulation. Other studies have linked the fibromyalgia pain to small nerve fiber neuropathy. In brief, fibromyalgia can be either primary, meaning without a known trigger, or secondary when associated with other conditions. Fibromyalgia may be triggered by a stressful event. Possible triggers for the condition include a physical trauma, especially involving the trunk, an acute illness and injury. Emotional stress may also trigger this illness. Although fibromyalgia causes pain in soft tissues, muscles, tendons, and ligaments, it is characterized by the absence of tissue inflammation. A key characteristic of primary fibromyalgia is the presence of any other rheumatic or systematic disease that could cause the pain. Recent research suggests a genetic component, fibromyalgia, may run in families. There are certain genes that can make people prone to developing fibromyalgia. However, genes alone do not cause fibromyalgia. Thank you for your attention.